Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Hammer. Today is Thursday, August 21st, 2025. I, of course, am Hammer with Originator Success and Grab and Go Social and basically Hammer Solutions. That's the company that has all these cool brands. So thank you for joining me. Appreciate you being here. And remember, you can join me live each weekday morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. If you're here this morning, say good morning. If you're watching on the replay, go ahead and give me a hashtag replay in the comments. Let me know that you were here. Don't forget to smash that like button, tag a fellow friend, share this post in a group. Always remember, your comments are appreciated. It helps with engagement and it keeps me engaged. Always appreciate y'all being here. If you want a quick reminder that we're going live each morning, we send out a text alert. You can go ahead and get a message at hmmr.io/reminder if you want to sign up for those. You can, of course, unsubscribe at any time, and we don't sell your information. So it's just for me to remind you that I'm going live so that you don't miss the show. You can also use this cool QR code. Where is it? It's over here. And if you're on your phone right now, take a screenshot. You can actually go back to your photos, and that QR code will work. So remember that. Today, we're going to be talking about the Fed. There's so much to talk about the Fed. We're going to be dishing the tea. I'm going to be talking about that Trump Fed virus. And it sounds harsh, but yeah, that's exactly what it is. The Trump Fed virus. Trump is looking to get in and take over the Fed from the inside. We're also going to talk about Lisa Cook and if she did commit mortgage fraud. This one may make me a little less popular, but I don't care. We're going to talk about the September rate cuts and Fed futures. The September Fed rate cut probabilities are sliding. And we're also going to talk about what consumers think about the Fed, because it's very interesting to me. So we're going to get into all that. So let's go ahead and welcome the live folks here this morning. If you're here this morning, say good morning. First one to say hello this morning was Charlie Bedita. Good morning, sir. Great to have you here. Thank you so much for being here. And thanks for joining. Let's go ahead and say hi to all the rest of our live folks here this morning. We got Mallory Fodiatis and Holly Johnson. Good morning. Chris Dickerson, Faye Escribano. Good morning. Michael Love, Brandy Brickler, Yasmin Martin. Great to see you. Kyle Mazikas, Nathan Einkorn. Good to see you, man. Haven't seen you in a while. Tiffany Teal, or at least I don't see your comments. Deb Dickinson, Randy Teagle, giddy up, sir. Matt Rasner, good morning. Vicky McSweeney, thank you for joining. Great to have you here. Rob Smith, good to see you, sir, as well. So I'm sure Mr. Ron Siegel will probably pop on in a minute and tell us what we got going on. But let's go ahead. Let's get started. Jump into the good stuff here. We will start with a quick recap of what happened. Oh, you know what I've got on the screen? Let's go ahead and that was not what I was expecting, but let's go there. So if you would like to sign up for our free daily lock advice email that goes out each and every weekday morning, here's the one from today, Thursday, August 21st. Gives you a quick at a glance, a couple of paragraphs on what's going on, and then the outlook for rates over the next few windows. Because a loan that closes in 30 days has different things to worry about than a loan closing in a week and a half. So I think it's important that we break those down. So if you'd like to sign up for those, you can sign up at ratelockadvice.com or use that cool QR code that is on the screen in front of you as well. So, all right, now that we got that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the good stuff. Quick recap. What happened to mortgage bonds yesterday? Oh, there's Presentify. Okay. So yesterday, pricing came out around 10 a.m. in this little general vicinity here. You could see that mortgage bonds did improve a little bit through the day, kind of worked their way up. Remember, up is good for mortgage bonds. That's green. That gives us a happy face. All right. However, still settled a little bit higher on the day here, but not too much. So the overall improvement, as you see from my scribbly lines, not anything huge. This morning, though, you could see right here, red, we opened the day much lower. So we were right here. That's going to give you a little bit of a frowny face. That's not good for pricing. So we don't love that. Now, if you take a look right here, this blip was due to the jobless claims that came out this morning. So the jobless claims were higher than what was forecast, and the continued claims also moved higher. So it got a little bit of a reaction, but then that lasted, for about 30 seconds, and then it came back down. So you can see there's a little bit of movement here. We're up for the moment. That puts mortgage-backed securities at -5 on the day. We were right here is really not that far different. It's basically, it was -10 on the day, and it's likely where we'll be when pricing comes out again. I mean, this is just a little blurb, so I don't think you'll expect too much there. Taking a look at the 10-year Treasury yield, 4.30. Let me zoom in. I wrote it wrong on the lock advice. See this blue line right here? This is the 25-day moving average. Now, when we look at the yield, it's the different than bonds. So when yield goes up, that's bad for us. That's going to make us cry because we don't want to see that 10-year Treasury yield go up. What we want to see is that yield drop down with green. That makes us happy. All right. Now, what we see, though, is this one, it got support from the 25-day moving average. It moved lower this day. It was lower here, and now it's coming up and testing that 25-day moving average again. This is not a huge deal, especially because we are going into tomorrow's Powell speech. So that's going to change things up a little bit, but definitely something to keep an eye on and be aware of. If we take a look over here at mortgage-backed securities, I want to show you right here. That's 100.08, 100.0. A lot of circles on this number. What a pain. All right, 100.08. You could see that we're below that mark of where we were after. Remember, this was the Friday jobs data from August 1st. So we had this huge reaction to those weak numbers that came in from the jobs data, the revisions lower. And we're starting to break below that. We improved from that, came back down, improved from that, came back down. And we're basically just a little bit lower than where we were at that point. It's kind of death by 1,000 cuts, if you will. So again, recap, MBS improved a bit, but not enough. Reprice is better. Rate sheets today likely to be, actually, let me switch to, hold on a second. I got so many things going on here. Let me switch to this scene. What? Okay. Rate sheets could be slightly higher. If we take a look here at Mortgage News Daily, you're going to see, again, just death by 1,000 cuts or the frog in the boiling pot. Last Wednesday, when we got the CPI inflation data, 6.53 was our magic number. Remember, it was a little bit of a relief rally we saw. If we take a look at mortgage bonds, that was right here. We saw a bit of a relief rally where things kind of improved, and then they lost ground on Thursday. So actually Tuesday and into Wednesday, we saw it was just kind of a little bit of relief rally after that CPI data came in, basically as expected, a little tiny bit higher, but not too bad. But what we're at right now, we're right around, say, 6.61, and you could see, I mean, tick it off, 6.53, 56, 58, 59, 60, 61. You can't get more gradual than this, but we are seeing rates. Ultimately, this is pushing rates higher. And, that's kind of what we're seeing happen. Now, corresponding to that or correlating to that, you're going to see Fed futures also. For the first time, this is below 80%. Remember, this is up to 99% a couple weeks ago, and now it's down to 80%. This is Fed futures probabilities of a Fed rate cut to come in September. Markets now pricing in a 20% chance that the Fed may just leave rates unchanged in September. What Powell says tomorrow is definitely going to be a big deal about that. So reprice risk on the day today is low. I don't think you have to worry too much. We could see bonds slip a little bit lower, but I don't think we'll really have to worry about that. I think if it does move a little bit lower, it won't be enough to see any big moves ahead of tomorrow. So I don't think we really have to worry about that. Now, let's talk about tomorrow. Let's talk about the Fed futures. Let's get into that stuff. So Powell's going to be speaking. His speech comes out at 10 a.m. Eastern time. And remember, last year is where Powell used the Jackson Hole pulpit to basically forecast and broadcast that the Fed was going to cut rates and cut rates big in their September meeting. And they did a 0.5 point rate cut last year. Now, if we take a look at where we were with rates heading into that meeting last year, let's go ahead and shrink this down and use this for reference. Oop, I liked where it was right there. Okay. So if we take a look here, we had mortgage rates that were at their lowest level right before that September meeting and before that rate cut. And then after the rate cut, we saw rates move higher. Okay. Now this corresponds to what I said we were going to talk about today. We're going to talk about that Trump Fed virus and Lisa Cook in a minute. But right now I want to talk about the, kind of what's going on with the rate cuts and what consumers think about the Fed and what we need to be talking about. So when we take a look here, the expectation this going into that September meeting, the expectation was that we were going to see recession, we were going to see slowdown, weakening, all that stuff. And all of that stuff is unfortunately bad for the world and people, but yet good for mortgage rates. So that's where we were. And then it pushed back up. What do we think is going to happen this time? Well, as we head into Powell's speech tomorrow, right now we're looking at Fed futures that are about 80% expectation for a September cut. And by December, again, we are right here right now. So by December, we are looking at 2 cuts. Remember, this was neck and neck with 2 or 3. This is 3 cuts. This is 2 cuts. We were neck and neck at one point, but now that has moved and shifted. Markets pricing in the idea, what if we don't get a September cut? What if the first cut comes in November or even only in December? So that's what you're looking at here. And if we see this column, number 3, if we see this drop, right, that's going to increase expectation that rate cuts won't be there. So you're going to see basically it's bad for mortgage rates is where I'm going with that. So right now, as we go into Powell's speech tomorrow, I think that he's going to be very clear not to expect a September cut and that it's going to be data dependent. He'll leave the door open and basically he's not going to come out and say that they're waiting to see what this next labor market reading is, but this Fed meeting in September is September 17th, right? And we get a jobs data in September 5th. And what's kind of funny is as much as Trump is pressuring the Fed to lower rates, if Trump gets what he wants and the labor market shows strength on that reading on September 5th, that goes against the Fed needing to cut rates, especially after that wholesale inflation reading. So, but I'm curious. Are we even going to see a big reaction tomorrow? What do you guys think? Do you think we're going to see a big reaction? Powell's speech is the must-watch event of the week, but will it even make a big splash? I'm questioning that myself. We've seen mortgage bonds kind of hold steady. We've seen the Fed futures starting to lose ground. I don't know. Unless Powell were to absolutely close the door on a September rate cut and say we're just not ready for that, I don't know that it's going to see a big reaction to that. So but anyway, speaking of the Fed, let's go ahead and keep talking Fed. Let's get into the rest of this stuff. After we had our video call, our live yesterday, probably during it, and I didn't see it come in. The big news, do y'all know who this woman is? Let me know in the comments. Who is this? Let me know if you know who this is. And oops, let me click not now. There we go. Come on, not now. All right. This is Lisa Cook. She is a Fed governor. She was appointed by Biden. But you never hear of her. You never hear her, just kind of one of the quiet ones, right? She's not out there on the speaking circuit that you hear about her all the time and different things like that. Now, a few things to go on. And again, you guys, I call it as I see it. And I hope even if you disagree with me that that you'll still listen to me. Still consider buying our products that can help you get business. But if not, I'm okay with that. First of all, let's talk Trump Fed virus, right? So Trump is a control freak. I'm not going to say that there's anything good or bad about that, but he wants to control all of these things. Trump wants to control the Fed. Historically, the Fed, the central bank, is supposed to be insulated from all of that. Now, I said we were going to talk about what consumers think about the Fed. What's funny is when I look at comments on the Wall Street Journal, I'm going to say that these are people that are at least spending money to read, a higher level publication. When I see these, I see a lot of people that support Powell and push back. They don't necessarily not like Trump, but they push back on all of these things. You see once in a while, you'll see somebody, Trump has put the Fed under siege, reducing their fortress to rubble. They can't stay in the way or attempt to sabotage the president's economic policies, who has a mandate from the American people. The idea of an independent Fed is fiction. You get that once in a while, but a lot of this is support. Whereas if I go on like TikTok, you see a lot of consumers that mimic what they hear from everywhere else. And it's very much like Powell has to go and that kind of a thing. The reason we're talking about this is your job is to go out and get business. Be careful of these conversations. People make decisions emotionally, and you may be trying to educate. You got to fill up your bank account, especially in this market. Educating is not always value. I'm choosing to educate knowing that it could cost me money, and I'm okay with that. And you may choose to educate knowing it may cost you money, and you may be okay with that. But just realize you will encounter people as we talk about these things, especially the fervent Trump supporters, the ones that seem to support every policy 100%, no matter what, justify any behavior. They will not listen to reason when it comes to this stuff. Now, there's a difference between Siegel and Mike Morano having different opinions than me, and we have those opinions based on fact gathering, not blind cult culture or political affiliation, right? So you need to be kind of aware of this. But what we've got going on, and I talk about this Trump Fed virus, Trump has he's gotten to Michelle Bowman, he's gotten to Christopher Waller. They have shifted from previous stances in a way that proves to me that they are hoping that their name comes out of the hat for Fed chair. I really believe that. I believe both of them. I'd love to know, do you guys think that in the comments? Do you think that Bowman and Waller are, kind of playing ball in order to be in the conversation for Fed chair? Now, this article, Fed minutes reveal broad support for holding rates steady last month, that almost all officials back July's interest rate decision. These are from the Fed minutes that came out yesterday, which I told you wouldn't move markets, and they didn't. Even though the two governors backed a rate cut according to a meeting summary. The two governors are the ones that we named, Michelle Bowman, Mickey, and Christopher Waller. So what happens, though, is when you look at this, if Trump can't get Powell to do what he wants and he can't get Powell to quit, how's he going to get things done? Well, he needs to shift what's going on there. And that's where we end up in all of this drama around Lisa Cook. Now, let's talk a little bit about occupancy fraud. And I want to kind of get from you guys. Now, y'all, I think all of you know, I wrote loans from 2000 to 2010. Look, I have a high integrity thing. I'll never screw you over. My customers they all know that. But at the same point, we used to look to get deals and get deals done. I wasn't going to tell somebody to commit occupancy fraud. If somebody was planning on renting a property, I wasn't going to do it as a primary residence. All right. However, looking at the backstory here, someone helped me out. On a second home, she got a 15-year mortgage on a second home. What would have been the add-ons for a second home? Back when I wrote loans, and these are from a few years ago, so it's after that. But back when I wrote loans, a second home was the same thing as a primary residence. There was like no add-on. You just had a different LTV. So I don't know what the down payment was and if that was the argument on why. So for those that don't know, this is the huge drama. And this is, what Bill Pulte is putting out. And by the way, I know, and I have this up in my Trump virus one here. I know that many of you are never mind. I'm not even going to go there. I'm just going to say my opinion of Bill Pulte. Bill Pulte. I think Bill Pulte is a douche. I think he's an imbecile. He's smart enough to have taken advantage of the meme stock stuff and made a boatload of money, but I think his integrity is terrible, and I think he's a lapdog. I don't think that the Federal Housing Finance Agency, the head of the FHFA, yeah, you could say that this is in his purview, but give me a break. First of all, these loans were done 4 years ago and they're not in default. So what this shows me is that all of this is political and it's all being done in order for Trump to try to gain support and pressure somebody else out. I would love to know why, what's her name, Kruger, bailed early. And what kind of, like, this is like something I would watch on Netflix. I feel like there was some blackmail in there. I bet you there was. Now, Trump, why doesn't Trump just fire her for this? He can't. He could, but he'll lose because this was before she was a Fed member. And the way that the Fed members are protected, they have to have dereliction of duty, not just have made a poor decision and done something like this. Now, you could argue if this is criminal, but I'm really getting into the occupancy fraud thing. Krista said now second home is the same as investment. There's a strong LLPA for second home for about the last 5 years. So maybe, thank you. Maybe that's why, because I wasn't going to pretend to know more than I did because I don't stay up to date with that. So maybe that's why. But, I really, she was not renting it out. It says, even on this, it says June 18th of 2021, Ms. Cook acquired a loan on a property, entered into a 15-year mortgage agreement, but I don't have the 1003. I would love to see the actual mortgage docs before I throw her to the wolves. Let me look at the actual docs and see what it was about. But if she did, she did. And is it something that she should be penalized for? Probably. But it's like a speeding ticket. I mean, yes, this is, I don't know. I guess occupancy fraud really, it needs to be treated the way it needs to be treated. But how about this? Fed found over 22,000 mortgages like those Pulte is flagging. President Donald Trump, his allies, are demanding Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook resign over alleged owner occupancy fraud. Again, the only reason that they probably have been looking at all aspects of the lives of all of the governors, especially the ones that are hawkish. And they're looking for anything that they can use to go against them. They are probably looking at their personal lives, looking for affairs, looking for illegitimate children. Who knows? But yes, that's the only reason that they found something from 4 years ago, is because they have people looking for all of this. And the only reason they have it looking is because they're looking to take over the Fed from the inside. Now, I'm not saying that makes occupancy fraud right, but one thing I do hate is this Bill Pulte guy really does get on my nerves. And I thought what was funny was somebody wrote on one of his things, it might even be on this one. If I make the comments on this one bigger, it kind of summarized it here. And it said, I'm a MAGA guy, but you need to stop posting. Like, how is this guy doing his job if all he does is post 7 or 8 times an hour on Twitter about this stuff, and this is what consumes him? Why is the head of the FHFA worried about this? This is something that an underling should be taking care of. This is not something, all Pulte is another mouthpiece for Trump. Same thing with this guy, with the Marino guy. Lisa Cook is cooked, should immediately resign, blah, blah, blah. We can get 2-for-1 special. Jay Powell can join her. It's like all they do is just repeat his rhetoric. It's like, come on. They sound like schoolyard children. It's like, give me a break. And I find it very frustrating that the head of the FHFA is this loudmouth, yippy chihuahua. He's Trump's chihuahua, and all he does is bark, 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 bark. And this is the stuff that he's going on and on about. And, it's like, come on, give me a break. Why don't you actually do something to make the FHFA better? And it's because he can't. The guy's a loser. He's in my opinion, he's a loser. So anyway, and I can say that because I'm not the president and I'm not talking about somebody on my cabinet or in my thing. Yeah, I know that they did the same thing to Trump, Brandy, but and I didn't agree with it then either. So I think that all that stuff again. That's why I don't make a big thing out of it because it's all garbage. It's all garbage. So, but that's politics and that's the game. Where that leaves us with mortgage rates, so to circle this thing up, you're not going to see rates get much better, y'all, and I think they're going to get worse. The lock advice has been drawn down at the bottom. Yeah, I see what you're saying, Ron. Ron says it's common. Going through your comments, and I appreciate all your comments on all this stuff. So, Bowman, no. Waller, maybe. Bowman's not in serious contention. Waller was in contention. He was still hawkish. Yeah, I agree, Ron. I don't think, but Bowman, doesn't mean that she's not trying to be. I completely agree. You can't have a conversation with anyone who sees he does anything wrong. And on the flip side, the one who sees he does nothing right. Yeah, and that's it. And hopefully y'all realize that. I'm not a Trump lover or a Trump hater. There's some things that I agree with, and there's some things I think it goes overboard. Cleaning up Washington, D.C. and cleaning up cities, I think is fantastic. I don't think that you need to have tent encampments. So that's my opinion. So I'm kind of good for that. When it goes too far, well, then I kind of go, I think it went too far. Stuff like this, I think it goes too far. Here you go, weaponizing the housing regulator. It looks like I didn't even notice this, but looking at it now, it looks like the Wall Street Journal kind of agrees with me. And he just, I'm going to call him Pulte the Chihuahua because that he's just a lapdog. It's like, why is he even in that position and what value does he bring to the finance? If you want to help people get into homes, why don't we look at the guarantee fees? Why is Fannie and Freddie making so much money? They were a quasi-governmental agency. Now they're full on government held. You're talking about an IPO and taking them public. Why are they making so much money? Why are the guarantee fees so high? Lower the loan level price adjustments, lower things that they have direct effect over, lower the price for investment properties. Well, now, because you want to increase primary residences. So give a loan level price improvement, an LLPA, give an improvement for primary residents. Take a half a point off, like dip into the guarantee fees, pull it from the other side. There's so many things that they could be creative ideas they could be exploring to help mortgage rates to improve rather than all this nonsense and all this crap. And that's what it is. Robert, I'm confused how any of these fraud cases got past the underwriter. If your employment is in state government, how does it get looked at as primary in another state? She wasn't a member of the Fed. I don't know anything about her. And honestly, I haven't spent that much time looking at it because it doesn't do anything to improve my quality of life. It's not going to make me more money. It's not going to improve my valued relationships. It's not going to help me sleep at night. So I haven't been spending a lot of time looking at all this crap. And I advise for many of you not to either. It just doesn't make sense to spend too much time on it because, unless it's going to help you make more money or have a better life, why bother? Right. But I mean, like from what I saw, she's not, that's why I said, show me the loan documents, show me what she actually signed and show me why she did it. But even then it's not going to matter because she says she's not going to be bullied. She's standing up to it and says, I'm not going to be bullied. I'm waiting until we start hearing feedback that this is a racial thing too. Again, very careful. This is a topic that now I've crossed the line. You shouldn't be talking about these things, but it just seems like everything will get played when it gets into the media and gets into the mouth. I'm surprised that hasn't come into play yet because she was the first Black female Fed governor. I mean, so I'm glad to see that it hasn't, and I'm hoping it doesn't, but I'm surprised that it hasn't yet. But she said she's not going to be bullied. And, again, I don't think Trump, do you guys think Trump has the authority to fire her? I don't think he does. I don't think that he has the authority to fire her when you look at what they're allowed to do. And as far as Elizabeth Warren, I think this woman, I have a very low, oh, sorry, y'all aren't seeing my screen. I have a very low opinion of Elizabeth Warren as well. But, the Trump administration should not weaponize the federal government. Well, they learned from the Democrats. I'll agree with that. Brandy, you're 100% right there. So, all of this stuff is nonsense. Go do your job, make my country better, and stop being a bunch of whiny little bitches. So, but Anyway, Ron said he spoke with the owner of a mortgage company, told me one of the biggest items the auditor's been looking at is occupancy fraud. So the company was looking at it closely. And and I get that. I mean, it makes sense, you know, but it's there. Anyway, it was good. Yeah, exactly. Laura, that, and that's why I said that the guarantee fees, the G fees were supposed to be a short-term fix. They never went away. It's kind of like when you get that fuel surcharge, that climate surcharge on your bill, and it never goes away. So it's the same kind of thing. And you're absolutely right, Laura. And that's where it's there. So, all right, y'all. Yeah, Randy, let's wrap up. That's kind of it, right? Randy, politics brings out the worst of all of this. Yeah, well, and that's it. I mean, thankfully, we're still the powerful ones. Otherwise, because this stuff is, he does have the authority since it's an ethics issue, but it would be challenged and not smart politically. I don't think he'd win it. It happened before she became a Fed member, and it wouldn't be a strong enough issue to have that. That's my opinion. I'm not an attorney. Hopefully, we don't find out. Ron pointed out a fee that goes to the government entity never goes away. Yeah, kind of like tariffs. So, all right. Well, anyway, many of you stayed through this whole day today. It was a long show. What do you guys think about talking about stuff like this? Do you like this forum that we have to chat about it, talk about it, where, I bring in your comments and you guys see your comments on the screen? You could pull the deed to see what she signed, but do you see the whole loan package? Do you see the 1003? Do you I don't, and from what I remember, I don't remember all of that stuff being put in, but I don't know for sure. So I don't remember what gets done. This is what, guys, I've been out of active originating for 15 years. So, I mean, I'm not going to pretend to know more than I do. So, yeah, I mean, the statistics, Brandy said, love it. All right. That's why I enjoy talking to you all about it and having this conversation. And I've got the pulpit. The Restream says there's 40 people that are still on, and we've had our numbers the whole time. If I were to see the numbers drop off, then I know that I'm getting boring and I need to stop talking about stuff. So, speaking of boring, I am out this afternoon going to Pigeon Forge to the Jeep Invasion. And tomorrow I'll be coming to you from Pigeon Forge. It's going to be a very brief show tomorrow. We're with friends. I don't want to spend a lot of time on the computer in the morning. So, and be there. So, awesome. Glad to hear so many of what you guys think. Appreciate it. So that's that. All right. Y'all have a fantastic day. Thank you for joining me. Remember, tomorrow is going to be a short show because I will be in Pigeon Forge. We're going to be with friends and I don't want to be spending a long time on the computer. So, I'll catch y'all later. Have a fantastic one. Bye-bye.